In the past, the problem's also like people want to get things perfect. They want to plan for 6 months, 8 months, 12 months. For me, I was like, I just want to do it. And if I fuck up 8 things, then I'll fix those things. And I felt like if we looked at a 6-month period, I would have started, learnt more, figured a bunch of shit out, and I would have been here. Whether if I was just planning and trying to work it all out and not really starting, I'd probably be here. If I wanted to start a new business today, I'd probably set up the website in the background and I'd probably start calling people. And I started telling them, like, got a company here. Just start, talk yourself up, like learn things and just progress.
If you had to attribute like one key to your success so far, what would it be?
Probably just not procrastinating and just running headfirst into it. It's kind of always paid off for me. Basically, I didn't know everything. I didn't have it all perfect. I think time will do its thing in your own business too. Like eventually, like if you're passionate about it, you'll just keep learning and then you'll become more valuable in that particular sector. And then like you will be more valuable and people will pay for your time.
Hello everybody, with me here today, the director of Maple Property Group and a serial investor who started off obviously purchasing a fair bit of property here in Victoria. You've got some property interstate as well?
Yes.
Yes. And now looking to obviously start investing overseas. You've just come back from a trip in Dubai and it piqued my interest. And I know we discussed a little bit off camera about that. So we'll definitely dive into that. But welcome, Beau.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And it's crazy. I remember it was probably about 3 years ago. We caught up and it was about 6 in the morning, went for a bit of a spa session. We went for a bit of a swim. I think we went for a bit of a run, I think, as well. I don't know how good I was doing at the time, but we were trying. And I remember like just, you were really like your cogs were, you said, Christian, like I'm pushing, I'm trying to get things going. It's not really happening for me, and now fast forward 3 years later or 2 years later, whatever it is, man, like you've been flying.
Yeah.
So it's been really cool to watch you. Obviously I've known you for
10 years at
10,
least.
15 years, man. And to now obviously watch you grow, it's been amazing, man. So yeah, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. And I remember when we caught up that time after, we've obviously known each other for a very long time, but having that business debrief, whatever it was, 2.5 years ago, it was, my main thing was that, I was investing hard, but still felt like, I could be doing more, and I was sort of, had all this hunger and motivation, but, just trying to find out how to basically put that into practice and get it all going. So keen to dissect what happened there and
get into that. Well, let's just kind of start from actually maybe, how did you get into property? Like how did that all start?
Yeah, for sure. So when I was, I guess, fast forwarding all the way back, my parents, they'd divorced and split up when I would have been 12 or 13 years old. So my dad moved overseas and my mum basically took care of myself and my younger brother. So I'm the oldest of two. When we were young, we sort of had this, I'd often watch my mum struggle with the bills and that sort of thing. And there was a lot of this sort of, not intentionally, and, but there was sometimes this negative talk around, putting food on the table and that sort of thing. And I was like, being the oldest, I feel like subconsciously I kind of, it's not something that you want to see, like your mum especially kind of struggling and worrying about money. And obviously, being the oldest, being a guy, that probably took more of an effect on me than I realized. Had a family friend who was big in property, owns many estates in the west of Victoria and the north of Victoria. He's probably, I won't talk figures, but he owns a lot of property basically, and basically I had a look at him, saw his situation, and he had a great wife, a great relationship, I should say. 3 beautiful kids. They were always traveling. They were always happy. They were always trying to improve themselves. They were big on wellness, and I feel like they had a really good balanced life. And I looked at them, and I sort of looked at my upbringing, and I was like, well, I'm going to copy and emulate these people, really from a young age. So I've known them my whole life, but I just, I just sort of would watch and sort of get these takeaways from people, and I think I would take a lot out of people. Like I would look and be like, I want to be similar to that person, and really look at and put myself into their life. So I feel like I did that again subconsciously, but wanting to move in that direction. And he was big on property. At the time, I'm 19. I don't really know what to do. I'm at uni. I'm studying commerce, and I'm thinking, and I'm working as a kitchen hand, and I'm thinking, all right, well, I want to get into property. So I get my first job when I'm 19 and a half, maybe 20 or something. It's in property management. So because that was sort of the first spark where I'm like property. And then, so I worked in property management when I was 19, 20.
I did not know that. Really?
Yeah, so...
Wow.
Yeah, so I did that for about 18 months.
Where were you working?
There's a company called EPM. They're in the city.
Okay.
Small portfolios, about 200. And I managed about 80 and somebody else managed about 120.
How'd you find it?
Good, it taught me heaps. It was probably the perfect job for me at that age as well.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah. So.
And it's an interesting job, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, you've got to keep the landlord happy. You've got to keep the tenant happy. It's very difficult.
You're trying to find a happy medium to both sides, and 100%. Sometimes one side can be very difficult for no reason.
Yes, exactly.
And yeah, it's always an interesting case. Yeah, wow, that's
100%.
interesting.
Yeah. So that was the first exposure to property at all. Hard job. Taught me heaps of skills though. And,
yeah, it does.
Heaps of skills. I mean, I'm 19 years old and I'm having to do these sort of negotiations and keeping everybody happy. Confrontation.
There's a lot of things like trying to balance everything. Yeah.
And, you can't be scared of those things. So worked at that company. That was good. I actually worked there in between my studies. They had a lot of investors from overseas, Chinese and that sort of thing. And they'd have heaps of property, and I'd often talk to them and connect with them, and they'd always tell me about property. And I made good relationships with those people, the clients that I'd worked with. And again, watched and viewed what they did. And I remember there was some guy who was like 40 or something, and the guy, he's got 30 properties. I was like, oh, fuck, like, cool, And I thought, this guy's cool. And I was like, fuck, all right, cool. To be successful, I've got to have 30 properties. Like, I just thought, I don't know. I didn't know like what to do, sort of thing. So I was like, fuck, I want to do something. So I'm like, all right, now I need. So then now I'm like, fuck, I need property now. Like this guy's got it. Like this is the path I want to go down. So, and for me, like, very. I know you know for a long time. Like I did feel behind that 8 ball, even though I was buying property and that was good. Like I felt behind the 8 ball, especially when I was like 22, 23, 24, even like 25. I'm 28 now, but. Because the reason is because like I was gathering a lot of skills working for people, but I was probably late to the party in terms of like the entrepreneur scene of like getting into a business. Like I don't know, like
not really.
Yeah, man. But I look at you, I'd look at Leo, I'd look at other people, and I was like, fuck. Like when I was that age, I was like, fuck. They've got businesses. Like this is really, like I felt like a little bit like. I felt like it wasn't as good at the time. Like
okay, that's honest. Interesting. No, I think I think that was just maybe
just in my head.
Yeah, I think
probably.
It was just because like you look at I think it probably was.
Yeah. So I was investing hard. I feel like I learned a lot from the roles, but at the same time, I always knew I wanted to get into business at some point. And when I looked at Robert Kiyosaki, he was like, look, investing is great. Investing is like.
Is that Rich Dad Poor Dad?
Yes. Yes, exactly. So that was another.
I've not read that book.
It's a great book. Read it.
Yeah, I know. I have to.
Yeah. So investing is very important. He talks about 4 quadrants. So you've got sort of 2 sides. So you've got the employee. So you've got somebody that just works, and then you've got the sort of like, I think it's called the I. It's like you're a business owner, but you're working inside the business. So it's like small business.
Yep.
So it's like you're heavily involved in the business, and if you left the business couldn't really run. But maybe you've got 1 or 2 people. So maybe it's like a doctor, or maybe like a GP owns a clinic or something.
Could be anything.
Dentist. Yeah, it could be anything. Yeah. And then the next part was business, bigger business that, you're more of an entrepreneur. So you've got this thing going, that thing going, this thing going, and there's a number of things going. And then they've got investor. And they said, no matter where you sit on this side out of these 3, whether it's, you're employed, whether you've got a small business or a big business, you have to invest. Because, when you invest, you're looking at something for the future, basically. So I always knew I wanted to invest, but it was just about I wasn't in the ideal spot here. You know what I mean? I was in the, I was in the employee. I was happy being there, but eventually, I wanted to move to the business side of things. And it was sort of B to I figured out was like the kind of key for me. I was like business to investment. So that's.
Okay, that's interesting.
That's what always I wanted to do anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you how did adding the Melbourne Property Group come about?
Yeah, it was probably just a natural evolution. So after I worked in property management, I think the most important thing is you have to start. So it's the same thing that I've done with Dubai. Like I wasn't like an expert, but when I started looking into it 6 months ago, basically exact same approach that I have here. I just wanted to start. I just wanted to get something. I wanted to learn and start the journey of understanding how it all works completely, which I know will take years. So
It's like I don't know, like me with like my Web3 journey. Like I just kind of stumbled on something in Jan 2021, and then I spent 12 hours a day just like trying to research and understand and get my head around things. Like you're probably searching keywords in Dubai, and you're just like, what does this mean?
Exactly.
What does that mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And when I was going there, I was just trying to book heaps of meetings with people, even though I didn't really know what was going on.
No, you were just air raiding.
Wanted to air raid, meet everybody. I'm like, all right, cool. You do this, you do that. And put into context.
Put pieces together.
Exactly.
I rate it. I rate it.
Yeah. So
it's a skill. It's what it is. Like even for example, like even with your business, like even when you started your business, it's the same concept. You're like, I don't even know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like, well, you do, but like you don't. Like you just
figure it out on during the journey though. That's right. So I'm always a proponent of like, if anything, like I want to take mass action quickly. So it was even like when we spoke, I remember speaking a long time ago, and you and Leah were always like, document the journey. I'm like, yeah, all right. It doesn't have to be perfect. In the past, the problem's also like, people want to get things perfect. They want to plan for 6 months, 8 months, 12 months. Yeah, cool. We want to get it perfect, For me, I was like, I just want to do it. And if I fuck up 8 things, then I'll fix those things. And I felt like if we looked at a 6-month period, I would have started, learnt more, figured a bunch of shit out. And I would have been here. Whether if I was just planning and trying to work it all out and not really starting, I'd probably be here. So I'm like, fuck, I just want to do it.
Yeah, bloody oath.
You know what I mean? Like
bloody oath. I feel like everyone's always like looking for like I don't know, like a perfect business plan, and they're gonna like go in there and it's gonna run exactly how they think.
No.
Fuck, it doesn't work like that.
No.
Fuck, one day I feel like you're king of the world, and then the next day everything collapses.
Yeah.
It's just a battle, man.
100%. Yeah, that's exactly right.
The clients that you were thinking you were gonna get then went somewhere else, even though they told you that verbally you've got the business and it's just
so many things.
So many things.
Yeah, exactly. It's so much that can go wrong. I think that the biggest takeaway is you just got to start. Just start. It's not going to be perfect right away, but just get it going. And for me, like I would have that approach. So if I wanted to start a new business today, I'd probably set up the website in the background. I wouldn't wait. The website would be set up, and I'd probably start calling people. And I'd be like, hey, just wanted to see if you wanted to tee up a meeting. Like, I'd probably just start calling people. Like, yeah. And I started telling them, like, yeah, we've got we've got a company here. Like, we're going to sell properties in Dubai. Like, you just start, talk yourself up, like, learn things, and just progress.
Bloody oath.
And the website will get fucking done, and that'll be in. And then by then, I would have had all of these conversations and that in. By then, like, we've got 70 or 80 people waiting to have a consultation with me about Dubai now. And I've only just got the agreements with some of the big developers and sort of players there, and the website's still getting fixed. So it's like, fuck it, you know what I mean? Like, what am I going to wait until the website's done for 3 months? Then I'm going to start that. Then I'm going to talk to people. Like, fuck that.
You just got to roll with it, man. I love it.
I think so too. So that's been my big takeaway. I think that, I think too many people are procrastinators. Procrastinators. They want to get everything perfect. I think you just have to run.
I think they're scared to fail.
Yeah.
I think scared to fail or scare of failure. I think that's like a big.
Yes.
I think that's like a big thing. Or even for example, like let's just talk about like documenting the journey. Like a lot of people don't document because they're worried about making a mistake or sounding like an idiot or the way they look. When in reality, no one really cares. And regardless, you could be Mother Teresa and people are still gonna shit on you.
100%.
Like it's you could do the right thing. Remember, Oprah was giving away cars. You got a car. You got a car. You got a car.
Yeah.
Somehow she's the devil.
Of course, that's right. Yeah.
But no, it is what it is. So so Maple Property.
Yes.
When did you launch that?
When did I launch that? So we've been registered for about 4.5 years, something like that. But pretty much exactly as we said with the follow-on, the first 2 years were very much finding feet, learning and sort of getting processes together, helping out more friends and family. So Maple Property's been registered for 4.5 years. Probably only really been supporting, helping the public close to 3.
So what do you guys do exactly?
So for us, like we'll support with more so wealth creation in the sense. So for us, like for me personally, I mean, I stick to what I know. So I mean, I've got shares and crypto and that sort of thing, but I've only ever lost money, to be honest, really, in that sort of stuff. Like property,
You're not selling any NFT schemes?
No.
Nothing.
Never. But that's because I don't understand it. I think you can't talk about shit that you don't understand. So for me, like I understand. We created a model at Maple that basically, that we felt like was strong from a risk perspective, but also we could be relatively sure that people's investments would be safe, that the properties would grow at a good level that we're happy with, the clients are happy with, and that that we could get them into a situation where they'd be able to continue duplicating and to continue purchasing. A big part of why I set up as well is like there's a statistic where a massive percentage of the population, like if they wanted to invest, say 8% of the population's got one investment property and their own home.
Wow. Okay.
And then if you fast forward that to 2, 3, and 4, in terms of the percentage of the population that have their own home and 4 investment properties, it's only 0.5%.
Really?
So it's a 0.5%.
Wow.
So out of 100.
Owns 5 properties?
Correct.
Okay, yeah. That's interesting.
Out of the whole population of Australia, and there's only, it's 0.5%.
Okay.
So
it's 8%, so it's 8% of people that own 2 properties.
Correct, their own home
That's not
and
bad.
property. It's not bad.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
Yeah.
Fuck, it's probably, okay.
Exactly, but then I was like, well, there's things that you can do to help with the duplication process. I mean, I've seen people where, there's obviously obvious things where sometimes you could buy $1 million property and it's on a big block and it's old or something like that, and that might give you $450 a week because no one's going to pay for an old property or no one's going to pay for the extra land that you've got. Whereas, you might be able to get something for $500,000 that gives you $500 a week in rent, as opposed to the thing that $1 million that gives you $450, like something like that. Like, and there's that happens every day.
I think it also plays a lot in, like, I don't feel people are like, there's a lot of factors to this. So number one, people aren't educated on property. So they got to get their head around that.
Yeah.
But then they've got to get their head around, for if they own a property, like, I don't know, how much equity do they have in the property?
Yep.
So people don't even understand, people aren't even financially literate to understand what they could do with equity.
Correct.
Like, I think a lot of people would be surprised.
Yes, absolutely. And equity is great. It's like, it's sort of like access to cheap capital that you can sort of do whatever with, and it's tax-free. I mean, if you're trying to duplicate, but then you're paying, like, if you're going to pay, I don't know, say you made $100,000 or something, I mean, if you're going to make $100K in your personal name, then you're going to pay what, 30? You'll hit the higher tax, but 32 will be in this, and 38 will be in that, and whatever. But like, it's a lot harder. You're going to have to get $100K cash. You know what I mean? Like, you'd have to save every dollar and probably make something closer to 140. You know what I mean? So if you can take equity out and keep moving, and your properties are positive
buying
cash
more
flow,
property,
and do it that way rather than saving, then it's going to be a far better outcome.
Yeah, of course. It's wild. So I think there's a lot of factors to property investing that isn't like, we're not taught it. We're just not.
We're not educated in the school system around your credit score, how to use a credit card, how loans work. None of that stuff at all. And it's important.
Bloody oath. If you had to attribute like one key to, for example, your success so far, I know you still got a long way to go, but you've been doing really well. Like, what would it be?
Probably what I mentioned at the start, like just not procrastinating and just running headfirst into it. It's kind of always paid off for me. My first investment property that I purchased, I think I was maybe 21 or 20. I actually don't remember now. And I think it was in 2013. And basically, I didn't know everything. I didn't have it all perfect. It was a property in Ballarat. It was what I could afford at the time. It was 134,000.
You've done really well.
Yeah, it was a house. It was 600
Ballarat's
squares.
Crazy.
Ballarat's mad. I think that would be 450 or something now, maybe more. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that was 7 years ago, so I bought it for 140. It's probably 450. I ended up getting another 2 of those just a year and a half later.
Nice.
Just because I wanted to run though. Like, I just let time do its thing, And I think time will do its thing in your own business too. Like, if you just start, eventually, like, if you're passionate about it, you'll just keep learning, and then you'll become more valuable in that particular sector, and then like you will be more valuable and people will pay for your time. So I think I applied the same for both, and it kind of worked out. And like just run at the wall. You know, it's people. A lot of people get analysis paralysis in investing, and also in I feel like in business as well.
For people that are listening, that thinking about investing in property, where do you believe they should be looking at, or what should they be looking at? Like, what are some key points when you're looking to invest in property?
I think for me, like I'll always look at, you have to look at like when you buy, like what's this purchase going to mean for your next purchase? What's your borrowing capacity going to be by purchasing this property as opposed to something else? So that's very important. I think like the finance side of things, like you have to understand that to a T. Because if you can't get finance, you can't continue purchasing. So that's really important, which obviously stems, and then that naturally progresses to cash flow. So your property has to ideally at least pay for yourself, pay for itself, even in a period of high interest rates. And I'm talking principal and interest. Anybody can find something that pays for itself on interest only, but if you can get something that pays for itself on P&I, that's going to be a really good thing. Other things, obviously you want to make sure that you're not overpaying in a particular area. So you want to be getting value. Like value is really important too. Like you can't, if everything in the area costs 700,000, you don't want to pay 1.2. You know what I mean? So don't overcapitalize in an area, I think is really important. The areas that we invest in, we want to make sure there's sufficient government spending and there's a reason to get there. It's like, I don't know, like if you looked at it as a stock thing, it's like, we might not look at you got your safest blue chip, whatever, like your, I don't know, BHB or CBA, I don't know, I'm not that big into it, but it's
CBA?
It's just going to grow, CBA, whatever, it's just going to grow, whatever, like X percentage, slowly, whatever, like that's fine. And then you've got the pennies that might fucking live, die, fast, whatever.
The penny stocks, where you want to be. The good stuff.
Exactly.
The one that turns a 30x into a day, or you lose it all the next day.
Exactly. It's 100%.
The adrenaline.
Yes. So it's like with the pennies, I consider that's like the mining towns, that sort of thing where it's like, boom, it could 5x or it could be worth nothing.
Or crypto micro caps, anything under 10 million.
Exactly. So it want to be somewhere in the middle, and safe. So it's a risk to reward.
It's interesting. If you don't know what you're doing, you'll lose your money pretty quickly playing penny stocks.
Yes, exactly right. So, exactly. And,
but that's funny.
It's the same thing with investing. So it's just about,
is there any particular property? Are you looking at apartments, townhouses, house and land packages, industrial?
For sure. For me, I've purchased to industrial. I like industrial. There's nothing wrong with industrial. It's just a different type of investment. For us personally, and for our clients at Maple, we do houses. We do houses with land content.
So house and land?
Not necessarily, most of the time, but not necessarily. It's just where we can get value and where we can get the negotiation. But it needs to have land. So it needs to be like, we prefer to go to houses. We haven't done any townhouses. We haven't done any apartments. It needs to be a house, and it needs to have land content. It doesn't have to have too much land content, and then it doesn't have to have, it's just about getting a good sort of, because if you see where rental return comes from, usually, like the most rental return is people will pay for something that's a little bit newer. So it's like, if something is newer, people will pay a premium for it. Something that people won't pay a premium for is like land, as an example. Like if you've got 3 times the amount of land, someone's not going to pay you 3 times the amount of rent, but it might cost 3 times the amount of price. So it's like getting that way up of, is it worth trying to go for some bigger land versus some smaller land? So that's sort of where I'm at now.
So you're looking, for example, you're more focused on rental return rather than capital growth, for example. Because if you got land, it goes up generally, but you don't get paid as well. It's hard trying to find that balance.
100%, because there's so many different things. So we go, we want growth as well, but I think, for instance, for instance, it was 2 things. Say there's a property that's going to grow at 12%, but it hurts your borrowing capacity $400,000, right? By purchasing this thing, but it grows at 12%. But then if you buy something that grows at 8%, but it hurts your borrowing capacity $50,000, I'm going to pick the 8% every day.
Because then you can keep
Because then I can keep going.
Why?
And that's how you duplicate it.
But why would it hurt the borrowing capacity?
Because the debt to income ratio is off.
Okay.
So exactly what you said, where maybe more land does equal more growth. Yes, correct, 100%. But if by buying that property, that means that yes, you're going to get that growth, but then we're not looking at doing this over a 2 or 3 year period. And also, our strategy isn't really to sell. Like for us, we have a buy and hold strategy. Like we don't renovate, we don't flip, we don't we don't develop, we don't do any of that stuff. It's just it's the same strategy I've done. Like I haven't developed to date, I haven't done renovations or flipped property. I've never sold anything actually. So it's all just been about accumulation and trying to build a sustainable portfolio that you don't need to sell so that you can buy something else. You just want to, and this is what I've done. So I just pull. My businesses are structured on what I'm doing and what I think is good. So I think that buying Australian residential property is good. It's safe, and I don't sell. So my model is that we don't tell clients to sell really, unless they want to, and that's fine. That's their own prerogative. But that's not how it's set up. Same thing with the Dubai thing. I've started to look at Dubai as a good market. From a returns perspective, you have double-digit returns, but it's a higher entry price. It's not even that it's a higher entry price. It's harder to get in. There's more of a barrier because of the international side of things, but also the lending side of things. You can't just go over there and lend with their banks. Australian banks not going to lend you money to buy a property in Dubai. So you have to have a little bit going on here. Then we can talk about how your portfolio overseas might complement it. Work out if it's even worth it, if it's even something that you want. For everybody, it might not be. For me, it 100% is, because for me, I want to be a little bit more nomadic. My goal long term is I want to have businesses overseas. And I love travel. It motivates and excites me. And I don't want to just sort of stay in one place forever.
Okay.
I want to have my base, but I definitely,
So for somebody why would they want to invest in Dubai? What do you feel like? Yeah. What do you feel like it is, and even the returns and stuff like that? How does it?
Yeah, I'll tell you about why I wanted to invest in Dubai. Not everybody's the same. I've got a lot of friends that are entrepreneurs and business owners that also think the same as me, and I just thought that if we think this way, then there's got to be other people that might want to think this way as well. And I think everybody essentially wants the same thing. Everybody wants freedom of their time, freedom of to do something that they want to do, and to not have to work a job because they want to, not because they have to. And obviously, money's important. You're always going to need a job, and that's fine. But I think it stems from wanting to have control over your lifestyle. So why I bought in Dubai, Christian, just to answer your question, is same thing. I think it's the first evolution of me starting to set up things overseas, businesses overseas, and if we want to, it's a risk perspective as well. It's diversification at a whole new level. You can get growth at a whole new level. You can get rental returns at a whole new level. The bank systems, the systems of credit that the banking systems, they're not connected. So if you've got, you might have properties here, then the banks over there aren't going to ask about your debt over here. It's your own thing. It's like you're starting your own business.
Wow.
It's like,
it's like a fresh start.
Yeah. And the good thing is as well, they pay the rent 12 months in advance.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, yeah. So I bought a property recently. It was like 450,000 dirhams or something. And it was like 10% return. They gave me a check for 40,000 dirhams.
Wow.
I don't know what that is, like 17,000 Australian or something like that. I get that and put that in the bank account. That's cool, that's paid. And I just leave that there, and then I'm like, oh, cool, I'll get another one. But by the time you get a few, it's like, fuck, you got that, and it's like...
So you get the money up front, and you can keep kind of
You get 4 checks, yeah. And but when I bought it, they gave me all the checks.
Okay, yeah. And then so the rental returns are better than Australia?
Rental returns, it's very common to have 8%, 9% returns is very common. To the point where you could probably just... You probably just go, oh yeah, I want to take that.
Where the average return here in Australia is like 4 or 5%, or in Melbourne, Victoria.
You're very lucky to get 5% these days.
Yeah,
very lucky.
Very.
Yeah. So
how about for example, Queensland?
Queensland's very good. Queensland's always been known for better rental yields, but the price points came up so much that it's not it's sort of like the yields started to get
Well, because
squashed.
Queensland's gone nuts the last couple of years.
Queensland went nuts. Exactly
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I mean, we had people that purchased 18 months ago in Ipswich for $400,000. The properties are $700,000 now.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow, that's wild.
yeah. Ipswich is like the Melton of Victoria.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, Ipswich is like the Queensland equivalent.
Yeah,
of
got ya.
Melton to Melbourne.
Have you, I think you've purchased a few in Queensland as well?
Yeah, I've got one in Queensland.
Yeah.
In Ipswich as well.
Okay.
It's not really a focus. And then that's the other thing. So purchasing interstate, you've got the land tax side of things as well.
How does that work?
So land tax, so it's like, and hey, don't quote me because it's always changing. And this is why I'm looking at Dubai as well as my portfolio here. But, once upon a time, and it still is like this, but they tried to change it recently. You've got the land tax is only attributed to the state that you're in. So for instance, if you're in Victoria, and you've got $1 million worth of property, you're getting land tax, you're paying land tax on $1 million. If you've got $1 million in Queensland worth of property, you're paying $1 million. If you've got $1 million in WA, you're paying $1 million. What they've tried to do at some point, and that's the good thing too, right? If I was to buy every single thing in Melbourne, you might have $6 or $7 million of land tax, which is obviously it's going to start buffering, and you're paying it on a completely different level to whether you've got 1 mil, 1 mil, 1 mil, 1 mil. So it's split up. So that's one good thing. If you can, usually we wouldn't tell somebody to continue buying in the same state. So usually we used to go like Melbourne, like South Australia, Queensland, WA, sort of last. Something like that. Whereas this is what they tried to do recently. They pulled it back though. They tried to link Melbourne and Queensland. They tried to link it. So they're trying to close that loophole. And, I think it's good to get, the first 3 or 4 properties here. That's good. You've got your base, you've got your foundation, and then after that point, it's like, now you have the equity. Equity is options. Just because you have equity, it doesn't mean you're rich as well. Like you can be asset rich and you still like, fuck, I need to pay all these things. Like equity is like options. Equity is like, that's what you want. You want equity because it's tax free. It's your wealth in the property. I think that's like, I think it's real wealth as well. You've got businesses and stuff, but if you want it, I feel like you've got the option where, like you could sell, if you wanted, if you're like, fuck it, like or whatever, you could just go like, you could sell like 3 of your properties and go, fuck, you could buy your dream house. Like something amazing, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just options. Or you could you don't even have to sell, you could take the equity out if you had you need the servicing obviously. But even if you didn't have the servicing, you could sell the houses. So it's...
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, so it's options.
And is there anywhere else in Australia you'd probably recommend or?
Not particularly. My core thing is just, I want houses with land content. We don't really do apartments or townhouses or anything like that. We chase rental returns. We value that growth is important, but it's not everything. People that work with me, they want to build a portfolio. If you want to just buy a property, you can buy anything. Like just buy a property and like it'll fine. Yeah. It'll do well. Like the market will do well. But if you want to build a portfolio, that's like why people will come to us.
Okay. How does let's go back to Dubai. So how does it work being, I've heard Dubai for businesses are tax free or stuff like that. How does that play out? Does that play out in property or in any way or?
There's a few different things. Obviously, like if you're a tax resident here and you make income over there, like you still have to pay that tax. Like it's not, the tax office is not like you have to pay the tax if you're a tax resident here. In saying that...
Okay, because you're not a resident there, it's not...
Correct.
Got you, okay.
Yeah. But at the moment, I'm actually going through my residency process, and there's things that you can do, but it's the exact same thing, Christian. Like, now that I'm going through this process, like, there's so many things that actually can be done. And there'll be a point where I won't have to pay any tax at all.
Yeah, okay.
And this is the first step to be able to do that. So, so the first part of it, the benefit of Dubai. I mean, you got international currency, which is good, and we touched on that before. I mean, interest rates go up, and that's a bad thing for everybody. But if you want to put money overseas, if I was to buy the same property that I bought 4 months ago or 3 months ago or something, if I was to buy that property today, I would have saved about $45,000 to $55,000 in cash just because of currency exchange.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And they're putting the interest rates up. The dollar's getting stronger. So if you now have a scope where you're like, all right, well, you have to play the game. It's all hedging risk. Like, it's like, all right, new taxes are coming in here. Every day there's new taxes. Like, I could list, if I had an hour, I'd list 30 new taxes. If I had 10 minutes, I'd probably write a list of 15, 20, 30 different taxes that I know that have been introduced over the past 18 months.
That's wild.
The compliance here is getting stronger. There's all of these things that when I went to Dubai, I realized that I came to the conclusion on my own. But I realized that when I went to Dubai, there was a lot of people that thought the same as me, that said, to be honest, like, Australia is not the best place is not the only place to run a business anymore. There's so many taxes. I mean, businesses go bust because of the tax they got to pay sometimes, not even because of like that they're not profitable. You know what I mean? And here's the other thing: like it might be very easy to make 100,000, but it's not easy when you factor in all the other things that you've got to pay. It's like what I mentioned before. You have to make 150,000 to make $100,000.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even worse. I mean, yeah, you got.
So even like, I don't know, for business in Dubai, so if someone opens up like a bank account, and I'm assuming they probably need residency, I think it's businesses are tax free over there.
Yes.
So then, if you were running a cloud-based business or something, even from here, and you just had the residency there, you would be able to claim tax free, but the money would be going into that bank account. You wouldn't be able to bring it here.
Correct. If you had it here, then you'd have to pay tax on it.
Yeah.
The other thing is,
but then you could use that to,
maybe then you could fund things over there. Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's why the answer is, if you want to invest overseas, it's like you have to answer the question: would you be happy spending time overseas, and do you want to sort of have that lifestyle? And it could be, and it doesn't necessarily even have to be Dubai. You could transfer your dirhams to euros to US, and you can kind of watch it differently. I had a boss actually that was very influential in that way, where he had properties all around the world. He had businesses all around the world. He had wife, kids. He had his hub, but he was always doing different, interesting things, and he would have been worth about $45 million.
Yeah, wow.
In his late 30s, early 40s. And he was also someone that I emulated in my later, more recently, I started wanting to be a little bit more like that.
Wow, that's interesting. What are your thoughts on the current state of the market? Well, obviously, interest rates went up again yesterday, 25 basis points. We're sitting at what, 3.1 or whatever it is?
I think that the fact that interest rates only went up that much yesterday was actually a good thing. The Federal Reserve won't meet again until February, which means January we're all sweet. You don't have to worry about that. And that'll give inflation a bit of time to kind of catch back up and kind of, hopefully by February, we'll just have another little one, let people feel the pain, and then it should start to come down. I think it'll get to 3.6, the cash rate, and I think we're at 3.1 right now.
3.1, yeah.
Yeah. Obviously it's not ideal for people, but during COVID, it was like you could click your fingers and you're getting money. I mean, people are working cash jobs and then getting $750 a week, or and then we clicked our fingers and got $40,000 in grants. We're like, are you serious? Like, it was like, I was like, fucking hell, like we didn't even need it. Like, oh, okay, like it was like all you had to show. One of the things you had to show was like that a 2-week period in 2020 was more profitable than a 2-week period in 2021. And I was like, well, cool. Show them 2 weeks that we didn't get paid and the expenses came out, and show them 2 weeks that we got an influx of money.
Yeah, it was.
We sent those two things, 2 weeks, they gave us 20 grand.
It was ridiculous.
I was like, what?
Yeah, it was wild.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's stuff like that.
It was wild. Yeah, it's and then it's just to see what happened. But now, obviously people are jumping off, like for example, my mortgage. Yeah. It's literally just opening up this month.
Yes.
So then
a lot of people coming off fixed rates.
Yes. A lot of people coming off fixed rates, and I feel like in the next, for the next 6 to 12 months, it's going to be interesting. Like, the average people, I think, are up on their mortgages. They're 2.5 years ahead.
That's right.
And I actually looked at mine. I think we're about 3 years or 2.5 somewhere. So it's funny, like, to see. Yeah. So it's this weird position of like, are people is it going to be are we going to weather the storm over the next 6 to 12 months where everything's going to kind of be fine and, it's going to be good because we're ahead? Or is it just going to be a total collapse where people are going to obviously start eating into that and then they're going to start maybe taking from it? And I don't know, because at the moment, this year, there hasn't been a lot of property that's been on the market. And property prices have been relatively okay. So we went 20 to 25% up. Now we've dropped about 10, 15%. And we're at a level where we're at a new level where people are buying and selling and things are moving. It's not wild like this spring. This spring, generally spring for real estate agents is it's where it's all happening. This spring has been probably the quietest it's been since I've been in the game. Even when I wasn't busy, when we first started, there was still a spring buzz. You're going and seeing it on the news. You're watching other agents, things flying. It just hasn't been like that.
Yeah, well, I think there needs to be a lot more pain as well before the market goes down. Buyers don't want to sell. But buyers don't want to sell for a loss. Buyers don't want to sell for I'm not fucking selling. If I'm gonna lose money, the only reason I'd sell is if I could get that money and put it into something else.
Yeah.
That's it. But I think a lot of people are the same thing. And if you've held property for a long period of time, maybe they don't need to sell. They don't have a good reason.
Well, that's the general consensus. Even us being on the phones,
they can weather the storm.
Yeah, speaking to a lot of vendors, they're just we don't need to sell. We don't. There's no reason for us to sell. We're not in a position where we need to. So that's the general consensus. But
things would have to get harder.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what's going to happen next year. When there is a lot more property that does hit the market, is it going to bring it down?
Yeah. Well, borrowing capacities take a hit. Rental returns have increased so much though.
They have.
Property. I put my properties up. People will hate me for this, but I put some properties up $100 a week. $120 a week.
Yeah, but we did drop. I'll just use Victoria. We were the second most expensive state in Australia.
Yes.
Rental prices went the cheapest in Australia during COVID, and then everyone left, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I would expect a bit of a bounce back. I remember, I'll just use this as an example. We're leasing out a property in Hawthorne for $550 a week.
Yeah.
During COVID, I think we leased it out for $410, $420. Yeah. And then now I think it bounced back up to about $520, $530. So it's kind of getting back. We dropped a lot.
Really?
Yeah, it was wild. It was just, but wow. You don't blame Victoria. Everyone left.
Yeah.
Man, everyone went to Queensland. Queensland boomed.
Yeah, I had an apartment in the city, and it used to get about $2,500 a month in rent. When COVID came through, $1,300.
Yeah,
took a big hit there.
That's wild.
But I bought it so long ago that it was okay. I bought it 7 years ago or something, and the property was
you'd probably you'd been all right.
Fine by that point. The mortgage repayment was $1,400 or something. And so
you're all right.
During that period where it was $2,500, I was just putting it all on the mortgage. It was really cool. So it was fine.
Which is mental. What are you advising your clients going for the next 12 to 24 months?
So the advice is sort of, at the moment now we can get a lot more pull than we used to be able to get, which is good. So, builders, their prices skyrocketed throughout coronavirus to crazy levels, where as well projects were not able to be funded. There are a few properties that I bought that the developers said we can't fund this. The ones that I actually physically purchased, an industrial property and something else.
Even industrial, wow.
Yeah, I secured something 12 months ago off the plan, and it was a really good price point. It was in Hastings. I was telling Aaron about this. It was $250,000. It would have been worth about $450 before construction even started, and the developer sent a rescission notice or something and said, oh, we can't do this project or something. So that was a bit disappointing.
That's a burn.
Yeah, but that's slowed down now. Developers will have to come to the party, and we're seeing that you can negotiate with them a lot more, which is good. And I think, if they want to get new sales, they'll have to negotiate and put their price down. So it'll mean that, if you're buying in a market that is not going in a massive upward trend, then you can negotiate more, and it's more of a buyer's market. and then it was very much a fear of missing out last year, and now it'll be fear of overpaying, and the developers will, and people, vendors might have to be a little bit like that. And that's probably why, Christian, the people that are buying, people will probably still pay a premium for property if that property is if they want it, they'd have to have more of an emotional connection to it, I suppose.
A+ stock is still...
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, just your regular stuff, they'd have to be comfortable to. You can get better price points, I'd say.
What are your thoughts on industrial? Because I feel like the whole property market, residential, has obviously taken a hit this year. Where I feel like industrial has still been fairly strong. Like I was actually looking, there was I received I got some paperwork from an industrial site in Heidelberg West and Reservoir like September last year.
Yes.
And then I had a look to see what they're selling them now because they're nearly ready. Man, they've gone up 150 grand. Like they were selling them like 550, 600. Now they're selling them 700, 750.
Correct.
In a year.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's wild still.
It's wild. It's really, really good. No, I like it. Look, and if somebody really wanted to do that, I'd be inclined to help them out. But I think, for me, like if you're just starting your property journey, or if you've got 1, 2, 3 properties, like you don't have that much, I think that residential is typically fundamentally safer, generally. Like if you've only got 1 property or 2, that's just me. And yeah, I guess I see all those benefits as well. And it's sort of like, with the industrial side of things, because I've got industrial property, so does my dad. And sometimes to get a tenant, it might take a little bit longer. Once you've got a tenant, they'll stay a long time. Obviously, the great things are that the tenants will pay the outgoings, which is beautiful. The tenants will do the maintenance, which is also great. With tenants that we've got, they stay 3 or 4 years, even longer. Might just take a little bit of time to get the tenant to start, that's fine. Also, the other thing is the barrier to entry for people. So residential might be sometimes 5 or 10%.
Yeah.
Industrial, you'll need 20% every day of the week.
Yeah.
People might not have 20% every, if there's something that's $600,000, 20% of 600 is 120,000. Then you've got stamp duty on top of that, which might be 30, so you're looking at 150. And then, if you probably won't pay LMI, but you might pay some sort of lender's fee, might be another 5. So you might have 155,000 that you need to get into a residential. And that's why, if you've got the money there, absolutely, it's good. It can be strong and solid. It's just not everybody has that kind of money to put into something.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Is there any, I don't know, is there any little hidden gems for anybody listening or any sort of property that you'd probably suggest or just anything? Could be a piece of advice.
I can tell you what I bought in Dubai.
Oh yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah, so I guess I can tell you why.
That would be good.
Yeah, so the property that I purchased in Dubai, it's because it's a different type of city. So what I purchased in Dubai was like a small apartment, and see that Dubai is very different to Australia. So this was a small apartment. The cash flow of the property will sit at around about 9.6%. It already had a tenant in there, and the rents went from the rents actually are growing at a really good rate as well. So the location for me, it wasn't. So you've got Business Bay, which is the hub. The Business Bay is like your Collins Street, right? You've got your Business Bay, then you've got your Marina, JBR, and that's probably your St Kilda, Port Melbourne. It's like your trendy area.
Where's
Also
the Burj
very
Khalifa?
expensive. Burj Khalifa's in your Business Bay.
Okay.
That's your Collins Street, Eureka Tower, Australia 108. That's Business Bay area.
You can own property in the Burj Khalifa, can't you?
Yes, I believe so. There's a hotel in there, there's a restaurant, it's a club in there. It's cool. Yeah. So you've got Marina, JBR, your Port Melbournes. You've got the city, Collins Street, Dubai, and then and now. Similar concept, I'm not buying in Port Melbourne and I'm not buying in the city. I'm buying a little bit further out, but not too far away, where I can get a property for 1/5 of the price. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dubai's very flashy like that. It's very like wanky like that. Oh yeah, where do you live? Like, who gives a fuck? People don't care. Yeah, I mean, people that live here to work don't really care. So you get something that's, what I got was 15 minutes away from the city, 15 minutes away from the beach. So I was sort of like in this axis. Well, I could get to the beach in 15 minutes. I could get to the city in 15 minutes.
Nice.
But it was just like inland. And it cost me 450,000 dirhams, something 450,000 dirhams.
Which is like...
to 180, 190.
Wow, that's nice.
200, something like that.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, not heaps. But then, and then basically, but I went to buy another one recently, and the guy goes, "Oh, it's like 50,000 dirham more," and I'm like, "Come on, man." Anyway, so, but they're putting it up. People are paying that. Like he's done 7 or 8 sales since mine, and they've all been at that price.
Wow.
So it does go up too.
Bloody oath.
But the returns are there. Yeah. So it's good. I think it's a really good addition. It's a different addition to just buying Australian property.
What do you need? What do you need to? Do you need a residency?
It's a good question.
Purchase?
Yes, yeah. So what you need to purchase is what you need. So basically, there's two. Same thing. Works the same way. You got off the plan or you got established.
Yeah.
Right. Off the plan is like you pay for it on a payment plan. So it doesn't like it's not that there's interest here. It's like a payment plan. So if you buy a property that's, I don't know, say 800,000 dirhams as an example. So 800,000 dirhams. Now, if to put that into perspective, they might want 20% of that 800,000 dirhams at the start. So 20%, you've got 160,000 dirhams. Then you put the conversion rate in. So say 2.5. So that's $64,000 Australian that you need to put as your down payment. So you put $64,000 down for a Dubai off the plan property, and now it might take 2 years to be complete, as an example, right? Now, during that period, the same as way untitled property works. I give you that example with Ipswich, where we bought properties for clients at 400,000 and then went to 700K. And I give you that example with the industrial, where you purchased and it went up astronomically. Similar sort of thing. While you have that untitled period,
I didn't purchase. I was
dabbling. Yeah?
I was paper reading. I was just
yeah, exactly. But I mean, while the property is getting built, you're still making money too.
Yeah.
And you're not paying interest, which is good. So you're doing a payment plan. So every 2 months you might be paying, $6,000 or something like that, and then you do that all the way through. So you have to be, financially well resourced to do that sort of thing. The other thing is you could be getting like a 50% loan if you're a non-resident. Okay. And if you're a resident, you might get an 80% loan.
Okay.
And I'll eventually teach people how to go through the residency process so that they can purchase these properties at like $200,000 Australian with 80% LVRs. Eventually be able to do that. This first one I didn't use a loan, but the next one I might, so that I can just see the process. It's more about a learning thing, but there's there's those 2 ways to purchase. Okay. It works very similar to here.
Okay, so if I wanted to bring the money back to Australia that you've made overseas, like what taxes are involved?
You have to pay income tax here.
Yeah.
So you have to pay tax. And
with what
you have to have a good accountant. But yeah, you pay tax here if you're going to bring the money back. So it's only suitable for a certain amount of people.
So you need
I want the money there.
Okay,
like,
so you need to open. So to open a bank account, is it hard?
Yes, you need to have a property as a minimum.
Okay, so I would need to go to the bank
and be like, I want to buy a property.
Okay, so the property was 180, 200,000. You went to the bank and said, okay, I'm literally buying this. I need an account. Is that how you did it? Or?
Yeah, I was like, I've bought this. This is my title deed. This is what it is. I need an account to receive the rent. Nice. Then I basically go through the application process. The guy told me that it would be fine. Just go through that process.
And what are your thoughts on the not your thoughts, like what's the process of you like getting a residency? What do you have to do?
So there's a bunch of stuff that you have to do to actually get the residency. So you'd have to you'll have to do like a medical. You have all of these appointments that you have to do. And basically, they just want to make sure that they know exactly who you are. They make sure that you're healthy. They don't make sure that, there won't really be a reason that you'd be denied per se. It's just, there's just a lot of running around to do. Being a resident, has got a perks. It means you can work there. You won't have to pay income income tax if you're a resident and you're working there and you're staying there and the money's staying there. You can work and live without tax or at a very low rate. They just did put it up a little bit. So yeah, there's a lot of perks. Yeah.
What made you choose Dubai? Is there like anything in particular?
Location. It's located
pretty
in a
central,
strategic
isn't it?
part of the world.
Yeah,
We're
it is,
so
isn't
far
it?
away here. So first of all, location was a big thing. The returns are strong. They're a country. The fundamentals of, like, I watch a lot of Patrick Bet-David, and
I've started watching.
he's
him.
mad. He's mad.
really cool.
Yeah. So I mean, he says that if you're going to invest, you have to understand what your government is thinking as well. Like, you have to understand, like, there's this videos, like, there was like 30 different things that you need to consider when you're investing. And he's right. I mean, we got to know what your government's thinking. I mean, our government introduces a new tax every week. You know, so like, you know, I've got 20 houses here. I don't need any more houses here.
Yeah.
Really, like, unless I want to live here. Like,
Yeah.
now it's time for something else.
Yeah.
Now, so it's awesome to have your foundation set up, but now I feel like I have a foundation here. I'm not motivated to get to 30 here. Like, it's fine. Like,
Yeah.
and also my lifestyle is I want to be a little bit nomadic, where, you know, I want to see parts of the world and I want to have experiences, because I've always had a very, you know, with time, you know, we're all going to get older eventually, and I've seen people go from being very healthy and strong 5 years ago to being you know, just a shadow of what they used to be, and they can't do hardly anything, and they're in hospital beds. So things can change. I mean, I've seen, you know, 28-year-old guys end up having cancer treatment. I've seen, you know, there's so much, you don't know what could happen.
Yeah.
You know, you could have an accident, you could get hit.
Bad.
You know, you got to enjoy the journey. You can't wait. You got to do what you want to do now. There's no fucking time.
That's amazing.
There's
It's
no time.
100%. It's the best way to be. Like, it's a really good mindset, man.
Yeah.
And just push it. So, like, what's next for Beau? Obviously Dubai, but business wise, like, what are you thinking?
For business, we'll support people. So for me, it's whatever I'm doing, I'll begin, you know, sharing that with people, and then eventually have a business out of it, for people that want to do the same thing, like I did with Maple Property. So it'll be Maple Property. The Australian market is still going to have some really good potential, and as the market, you know, as it turns into more of a buyer's market, you'll be able to get better price points, and it'll be appealing for investors locally, which will be great. And then also having this service for people in Dubai that want to purchase and have something and be a little bit more nomadic. There'll be a big questionnaire that we'll have to ask before we'd be happy to support them in something like that. And then what else is for me? I want to check out four new countries as well, about to look at for investing. And I want to do a course on each of those. So I'm going to start doing one for Australia, then I'm going to do one for Dubai, which naturally I know those two better. Then I'm going to do one about the US, then I'm going to do one about Singapore, and then I'm just going to explore and see what else.
Nice.
That's what I want to do. Yeah,
I rate
do
it.
some courses and stuff.
Yeah, it's been playing on my mind. Like, so I follow this guy. He's really prominent on Twitter in the crypto and NFT space.
Okay.
Runs a massive ad company, and he's just dabbles and he does very well. His name's Alex Becker.
Okay.
Now, Alex. Now, what Alex Becker, what he's been talking about a lot recently is getting citizenship in other countries and other tax havens and things like that. And he's looking at investing. So one thing it's that he was actually talking about is Vanuatu. So he's talked about Dubai, Vanuatu, and now it's funny. I've actually, like, next week I've got a guest who's actually building an island in Vanuatu.
Wow.
So, like, it's a crypto island.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, which is like insane. It's like 8,000 acres or something.
Wow.
So he's an Aussie.
Yeah.
He used to live in Sydney, and he was like, fuck it. Now, I was on the phone to him yesterday, and he was telling me it's literally just him and his girlfriend on this island.
Oh my god.
And he's like, come down. He's like, you should come down and, like, you know, we're going to build. I'm like, yeah, I'll come.
I'm actually going to Vanuatu on the 24th, so we'll go together.
Yeah, I reckon, let's go. So, and like, he was talking about Vanuatu being a tax haven and stuff as well. So, I don't know, it'd be good to, like, I've seen you post it, so it's good to just learn.
100%.
Because there's just so much out there, and, you know, we do pay a lot of tax. It's wild. It's actually wild. So, anywhere, obviously, that we can kind of save, it's all legal.
Yes, of course.
Loopholes and moving around, I think
Yes.
it'll be really good.
Yes, exactly. There's loopholes there. It's not about doing anything illegal or anything. It's just about, there's options there for people, and it's good to know those options.
Yeah, bloody oath. Well, Beau, last question. So you have to answer a question left by a previous guest, and then you have to leave a question for the next guest.
All right, perfect.
So the question that's been left for you is, what got you into your career, and why are you wearing what you're wearing today?
I love it. What got me into my career? Similar sort of thing, just emulated people that done.
We kind of discussed it.
Yeah, we kind of discussed that the whole time. And why am I wearing what I'm wearing? Oh God, I need to get these shoes off. I've been I'm setting up an Airbnb at the moment for one of my properties, and I have hardly any clothes there. And I only have one pair of shoes there. And I've been wearing these shoes for the past 4 or 5 days.
Nice.
And the problem is they're about a size too small.
Yeah.
And I've got blisters, and every time I take it off, I take my sock off, it peels off. So that's that. Shorts, I love shorts. I'll wear shorts when it's when it's 5 degrees. I'll be in shorts. And this, I just had it there.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Whatever, you just grabbed it.
Hopefully that
nice. I'll rate it. What are you leaving for someone?
Maybe. What makes you kick? What's one country that you travel to, and why?
I love it. Written down. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Beau, you're a legend. I really appreciate you jumping on. A lot of value. I got a lot out of it myself. Asking those questions that I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Which is good. So I'm really hoping that the audience got a lot of value. Where can they find you? So obviously, Maple Property Group.
Yeah. So the core business that I help people build portfolios is Maple Property Group. The website's Maple Group. And then I've got my Instagram, which is just Beau Arfi, and I don't do too much on LinkedIn, but yeah.
Amazing. We'll put your tags down below as well. And yeah, thank you for jumping on.
Thanks for having me.